Hey, it's only natural. Some people don't like to admit it here on YouTube, but sometimes you just fall out of playing video games. If you're a single player gamer, maybe you fall out because nothing really piques your interest, you get burnt out, or you end up playing more multiplayer games with your friends. Either way, today we got 10 tips, 10 little things you can do to get you back into playing some single player games. We tried to think outside the box with this one, so stick with us. Let's get started off with number 10. Play something short and digestible. If you're getting back into gaming, sometimes it's not a bad idea to start with something that doesn't require that much commitment. Look, we've seen and honestly made a lot of recommendations for these massive RPGs for people getting back into gaming for the first time. Stuff like The Witcher 3 or Elden Ring, like that'll hook you. They're great games, of course, but they might just be a little intimidating for a relapsed gamer. Maybe tiptoe back in. Yeah, going big might be the best way to start for some people, but for others, maybe something relatively short, digestible, easy and quick spurts might be the ideal way to go. And we're not even talking about like mobile games or something. I just mean games that have a lower bar of entry, but can give you that old sense of accomplishment back when you complete them. Usually when you search for short games, you get a lot of, walking simulators, puzzle games, and there are some great games like that, but that doesn't mean they're your only play options. If you want something high on action, but short in length of play, check out a Call of Duty campaign or a fighting game campaign like Tekken 8's. Otherwise, you have the usual short game suspects like Portal 2, which is great and very rewarding and not very long. Or maybe Inside or Super Hot, another action-packed one that just doesn't overstay its welcome and it's easy to jump in and out of. There's a lot to pick here, but the main takeaway is that if you're starting over again with gaming and don't quite feel up to jumping into a 120-hour epic, or struggle with burnout just playing longer games, then pick up something short. These games are usually cheaper, so there's low investment, and they're rewarding to finish without taking months to actually play through. Oh, and another thing you should check out, probably the subscribe button, because if you don't know, we put out videos every single day, so subscribe that so you're in the loop. Next at number 9, we think that probably the most important thing to remember about playing video games is that it's meant to be fun. That sounds obvious, but sometimes it's easy to forget, especially when you're a struggling or lapsed player. So if you primarily play skill-based multiplayer games at high levels and want to get back into single-player gaming for whatever reason, or have quit gaming entirely, whatever, then I think one extremely helpful thing to remember is that gaming doesn't have to feel like a second job. It doesn't have to be highly stressful. It doesn't have to occupy 100% of your brain power and motor skills while you're doing it. It doesn't have to leave you frustrated and exhausted after a prolonged session. Playing games should be fun. It should be relaxing sometimes. And if you approach it in a certain way, then it doesn't have to feel like a chore. Many players, and I'm not above saying that I'm one of them sometimes, they get in their heads that they have to play a game as efficiently as possible and on the hardest mode always. They go into gaming with the same hyper-optimized grind set mentality as going to work or something. You rush to every objective. You point the camera at the ground at all times to efficiently pick up all the loot. You never take the time to just stop and look around, smell the roses, admire the little details. So when you decide to play something new or just go back to an old favorite, keep this in the back of your mind. Play inefficiently. Just take it easy. Stop and smell the proverbial roses. Don't worry if you die. Again, play inefficiently. It can be easy to get it in your head that any lost progress is a waste of time and get frustrated as hell because of that, but it's just a game. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to finish it. All that really matters is that you get some enjoyment out of your experience. At the end of the day, what you get from a game comes from how much you put into it and what you put into it. Sometimes you'll get more out of an experience taking it easy and letting yourself get immersed in the world by really looking at it or messing around, experiencing all the details in a more direct way. Walk into new areas slowly. Don't just blaze through. Maybe stop, move the camera, look around sometimes. You might end up finding something cool. Listen to some NPC banter, read all the text descriptions, just engage with the game world. A lot of people worked hard on these little details, and some of them seem like filler, but you'd be surprised how many are actually worth checking out. You may end up leaving with a profound new appreciation for the sort of work that developers put into games, or even just appreciation for a game you never finished, or a game you're revisiting, or anything. Next at number 8, this might sound counterintuitive, but sometimes on the opposite end, challenge runs can be a great way to get back into gaming. For the more difficulty-oriented gamers out there who might get bored with playing games the standard way, or more of a results-oriented kind of player who likes to set goals for themselves personally, This might be a more interesting way to engage with the game. There are a few avenues to take here. You could try going for mastery with retro achievements, or for Job Fiesta, an annual event for Final Fantasy where players randomly generate their jobs for the game. There's Nuzlocke as well. I think that's how you say it. That's the Pokemon challenge run where you delete any Pokemon that die in battle and have to at least try to catch all the Pokemon you fight. And if you do catch them, then you have to use them. This is all old game stuff, but there are challenge runs for new games. It's become a pretty prominent subgenre on YouTube in the past decade, making videos chronicling all sorts of challenging runs with various different games, like trying to beat StarCraft 2 without losing any units, or beat a Souls-like without leveling up, or just speedrun something fun and simple like Astrobot. Now, the actual challenges of these types of things vary wildly, with some being just kind of a fun alternative way to play a game, to being nearly insurmountably difficult. But if you need some kind of motivation, stimulation, or like a goal to play a game, then doing a challenge run on an old favorite or something new might be a solid vector to get you back into gaming. Now at number 7, maybe you only play multiplayer games, but you want to play something single player? Well, try splitting the difference with a co-op game. They're essentially single player games you can play with a friend. These days, there's like a ton of options for playing co-op. You can play something massive like Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring with the co-op mod installed. You can play dedicated co-op adventures like It Takes Two or Split Fiction. Those are fantastic. Or maybe just do something more freeform like mess around in Minecraft or Stardew Valley with a friend. If you want something shorter, then beat-em-ups are also a great co-op option. Games like the incredible Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge can be finished in like an afternoon and are really fun played with a friend. I think as a way to get your feet wet with single player games experiences, co-op games are a good place to start. We do it with casual friends, like, right? How many times do I have a friend that doesn't play video games and then I sit down and co-op with them? These types of games give you the tools you'll need to play a more traditional game, but the pressure is off you to perform kind of well, at least most of the time. Games like Split Fiction can be pretty tough if one player is doing significantly worse, so not every co-op game is going to work for everyone, but they are definitely worth a shot. Now at number 6, one of my favorite bits of advice, play a comfort game, a familiar game to help ease back into the swing of things. The unfortunate truth is that gaming can be an expensive hobby. We always talk about the prices. Look, if you want to play games, then you'll need to buy expensive hardware, games, controllers, SSDs, PC parts, maybe even subscriptions, whatever. Any of this, that cost can add up like very quickly. If you're a lapsed gamer and just getting back into it, then one of the worst things you can possibly do is spend a ton of money on new stuff and then just fall off again, get buyer's remorse, whatever. That's a surefire way to just kill any enthusiasm you might have left for gaming. So start small and just dig out something old and play that instead. Dig up that old PlayStation 2 you got, play God of War again. Start up your abandoned Steam account and maybe pick something from the old library. Dust off your Xbox 360, play some Halo 3 or Gears of War, maybe even a PlayStation 4. I mean, that thing is technically more than a decade old now, as crazy as that is to say. Look, we're not exclusively talking to the old heads in the audience here with like their Super Nintendos and Genesises. Like, you don't have to be a full-blown retro gamer to go back and play something old to get into gaming full-time. All it takes is having something, anything, left over from your childhood or teenage years or whatever you used to play when you were more into games. You know, if something exists and it still works, then pop it in for another spin. Give it a shot. Even if you have no intention of actually finishing it, it can be fun and relaxing just to dive into something old that you're already very familiar with. Gaming is meant to be fun, so a little comfort food, a little nostalgia once in a while, or in this case, the first time in a long time, might be the perfect way to kickstart a full return. Next at number 5, if playing through the same old game the exact same way again sounds more like a chore than a fun way to pass the time for you, then maybe try giving randomizers a shot. These fun mods turn familiar games into roguelikes with randomized item placement, random enemies, even random level layouts. Depending on how hard these things go, like depending on the mod or mode, they will completely upend the experience of playing a game that you otherwise knew pretty well. There are a ton of them these days too. Just look at this database with many of the most well-known randomizer hacks. There are a ton of them available to choose from in 2025, and the list honestly just keeps getting longer. So if you really want to go full randomizer sicko mode, then check out Archipelago, the multi-world multi-game randomizer that doesn't just randomize your single player game, it actually includes multiplayer options and player interactions. The whole thing kind of just like makes our head spin, but it's an amazing project, and you can just use it to play standard randomizers in a simple, easy to use package. Going this route is definitely one of the more niche options on this list, but depending on like who you're talking about, it's stuff like this that really gets people excited about playing games again. And hopefully at least someone watching this actually checks some of this stuff out, because what some of these folks have managed to do is pretty remarkable. Next at number 4, I know in another point we talked about not spending money to get back into gaming, but maybe try a different platform. Why not? I mean, if you were exclusively a console gamer in the past, or maybe you were only playing PC games, or you only played PlayStation or only Xbox, then maybe switching over to a new platform is an option if you want a fresh perspective on gaming. You could try new things, maybe play some stuff that you assumed you'd never be interested in, or maybe play something like an exclusive that was exclusive to the platform you didn't previously have. PC is of course the easiest option here. If you're watching this, and you probably have a computer somewhere, so if you're a lapsed console player from the past few decades, then trying out PC gaming isn't that bad of an option, because it really is a hell of a whole lot easier than it used to be, with almost all modern games featuring controller support. So if you're not interested in mouse and keyboard, then that's fine. Don't let anyone judge you. Plenty of games are still perfectly playable. The trickiest thing with PC gaming is compatibility and dealing with performance, and also Windows. So look, if you start out again, then it's probably best to stick with relatively recent, like in the past 15 years or so, games that can run pretty easily on modest PCs. Plus two, look for deep discounts. Pick up stuff that you might be interested in, and then you're good to go. Or if you don't have a powerful PC, maybe just get a trial. Get one of those subscriptions that lets you like stream a game or whatever. On the flip side too, it can be really interesting to try out a new console that you never gamed the time of day to before. Maybe you're like a hardcore Sony kid from the beginning. Check out Nintendo. Maybe you were always on Xbox. Well, maybe it's time to pop over to PlayStation and see what's going on over there. It's fun to experiment if you have the time, the options, the money. Obviously, not everybody has those things, but it's worth a shot. Now at number 3, stick with stuff. Try not to give up. This might not sound like very good advice. I mean, why keep playing a game when you're not having fun? Life is short. But like a big reason why many lapsed players give up on games isn't always the fault of the games themselves. One common complaint I see from people who give up on games is that the game in question is boring, quote unquote, or they were frustrated early on, or just couldn't engage with it. And while that's obviously often the game's fault, there are plenty of bad, boring games out there. Sometimes a gamer's inability to engage isn't necessarily the game's fault. Like, I'm talking from personal experience here, but like there have been occasions where like I pick up a new game and don't really click with it at first. It's not that the game is boring, it's just that it hasn't really fully gotten its claws into me yet. I might play it for a few minutes here and there, or get sleepy while playing it or something. It just doesn't fully grab my attention in the first few hours. And I think this is a common thing for people. What I've found is that sometimes it just takes a few hours for a game to really start working in your mind. I don't know what exactly it is, but the more you play something, the more you engaged with it, then the more the whole thing just kind of starts making sense. Of course, there's plenty of crap games out there where this just never happens, but until you have a real solid foundation for what you don't like and do like, then all you have to do is look at the general audience and critical consensuses. Like if a game has an overwhelmingly positive review on Steam and you pick it up and get bored or start wondering what the fuss is all about after 15 minutes, maybe give the game a little more time to build up some steam in your head, you know? Get its claws in you. All that positivity didn't come from nowhere, you know? So breaking this barrier of getting bored is one of the toughest things you can do getting back into the games. Like it's so easy to get in your own head and start freaking out about value propositions and time wasted and just immediately turn against something if it doesn't click. But not every game is gonna click with you right from the start. Sometimes they do, of course, and that's why I recommended playing shorter, more immediately engaging games up top. But even with those, there's sometimes an initial hurdle you have to cross mentally to get them. So next time you're playing some game of the year winner and you start getting bored after 15 minutes and thinking it's overrated, maybe just try to give it a little more time. You might end up loving it in the end. Or it could still be crap in your eyes, but hey, at the very least, at least you tried, at least you gave it an honest shot. Now down at number 2, another way to play single player games while still having that community aspect to them is to form a gaming group or join some pre-established community, a forum, a subreddit, whatever. Look, one increasingly popular way to play games is the gamer club, where people get together on Discord or, like I said, if you're old, forums, and just decide on a monthly game to play. It's a simple way to give yourself something to go for, something to achieve, while having a group of like-minded people along for the ride, also chatting about it. It's essentially a book club, like for games, and just a great incentive to actually play through something. If you need that additional motivation to actually beat games, then going this route might be very helpful. Having a set goal and an actual group of friends playing alongside you is excellent motivation for actually finishing a game. You're not just doing it in isolation anymore. Like, there's an actual community aspect at work here that can be a lot of fun. Now at number 1, another one that might sound counterintuitive. Look, every point is separate here, but if your primary experience in gaming is playing competitively, then the more placid experience of so many single-player games might feel too easy or lightweight or even boring. You need something to really challenge you, so play something like Doom Eternal on the hardest difficulty, or crank up the challenge in strategy games like Civ to deity mode. It's a nuclear option as far as getting back into games is concerned, but if you're the type that just, needs that hardcore challenge to really engage with a video game, then this is an easy way to do it. Some people just thrive on adversity. They need that pushback to find a game interesting and engaging, and I respect that. Look, it can be a little nuts sometimes, but we respect it. The hard part with playing difficult games is that, well, the settings can really be a crapshoot. Sometimes you get games like Oblivion where turning up the difficulty actually makes it kind of easier in some ways. Other times you get games that are so overtuned at max difficulty that they're like just miserable to play. It's important to find the right balance here, and the best way to do that is to just stick to games with tried and tested difficulty modes. If you've never played Halo Legendary, then now's the time to do it. That's an old standby most of the games in the series are perfectly suited for. They're incredibly tough, not getting around that, but they're also very rewarding for the lunatics that go that route. Same thing for Doom Eternal. Your hands are gonna hurt on ultraviolence, and it requires an almost zen-like level of focus and precision and concentration. But man, is it a rush when you finally push through and actually finish a level. So maybe you lapsed because gaming felt too easy or didn't challenge you enough? Then this is another solution. Just play some brutally hard games, man. There are plenty of them to go around these days. Trust me, they are all the rage. But hey, those are 10 ways to get you back into single player games. Whether it's playing easy games, whether it's playing hard games, whether it's playing new games, old games, spending money, not spending money. We had a lot to talk about today, so let us know in the comments what you think. If you have any other tips or any actual personal real world experience, hit us up. We'd love to hear it. If you like this video though, clicking the like button helps us out. We really appreciate it. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.